So just going into the price action, I would say it has been more difficult than previous, and that's kind of going for the past, few months now almost. Just within my strategy and how I trade swings, you can see almost since this September drop, um, or August dropped even, it just hasn't been as great, at least on indices. But going into, we'll start with gold and talk about my mindset going into this is, go ahead and replay this. We have a candle 3 closure. And so why is it a candle 3 closure? Well, if you take a look, we have just that. We have candle 2 closing outside candle 1. So it is not a candle 2 closure unless we go and close below the body of candle 2, then that is a candle 3 closure. So with that, I could anticipate price to move lower if it respects the lower half of this, right? So I don't want to see price move lower. And then with that, my mind goes to this side of the curve. We have all these failure swings, which I think are good targets. But if we are not going to do that, where is price going to react? Right in this area. Why? Well, that is our order block as we have retch into an important level, the fair value up, closed over the down close candles. So the opening price and then the 0.5 of that, right? Or the opposing candles. So looking to be short or short biased in that day, we do get a move lower and looks like the replay picture is not going to work. So we'll just drag it over. But then this next day, we do go lower. But what do we do on this day? Now we're reaching into an important level. We're back into this opposing candle. And then we have a candle 2 closure, right? So this is not bearish. This is not telling us lower because we're not closing outside of this previous candle. So with that closure, then it would be looking bullish today. And that was what we talked about in the analysis. So if we go to the hourly, we'll go ahead and mark this one up. And then we will pull it up on the indicator, right? So you can see we'll mark up the higher time frame. We have swept out this low, right, which is also here. And with a candle 2 closure, the next stop in the flow chart is looking for a change in the stage delivery, which we have here. So then if I have both of those, I can look to take an entry in the following candle. Where would I want to see this respect? Would I want to see the wick be respected or the whole candle? Well, it doesn't really make sense to use the wick because if price goes from up here all the way down into the wick, now it's so close to taking out this lows, it doesn't make sense for an expansion candle. So that is why you'd want to see 0.5 of this entire move. So we go ahead and open up the indicator on here and remove those. You'll see how it marked it out is we have that sweep, 0.5 of that, and then that is our area we're looking for a low to form, and then we're getting this bullish expansion candle. Now, I wasn't really anticipating price to go reach all the way for these highs. I was more so looking for it to trade back into the range. Now, it may do that, but this is just where I was looking for it to go to. So are there any questions on gold specifically before we move over? You took a loss on silver. Would you mind reviewing it? Sure. Let's go take a look. Silver. Looks like you were trading. Where were you trading this? 9. So first off, what I would say here is we already had a candle 2 that expanded, right? So it's not as probable to be trading a candle 3 after we already had the expansion and the reversal in candle 2. But we're going to take a look at that, right? Here's the thing. Let's see if the replay works. The way I view this is I'm trying to find a trusted low, right? So if I'm trying to long this in here, right? Yes, I could consider this low, but I'm going to be wanting to watch this high, right? I'm not going to want to see a sweep and then I come back into the range, right, of this high. I'm going to want to see it just go right through this high, right? And if we go, right, this coming back into the range isn't very good for these lows, right? These equal lows. So for me, it's just kind of hard to trust this when it just goes higher first, then lower, then higher, coming back into the range, right? The main reason I would stay away from this personally is I'm trying to find an invalidation in this area or a price action where I'm looking for price to trade. I just don't trust any of this, right? And we had this such a large range that price could realistically go all the way down here, all the way back up and still be valid. So for me, it's just, I'm not trying to trade after a massive move like that, personally. Like it's just very hard. I like to trade after a reversal candle, right? So that would be a candle that looks similar to this, not trading after the expansion. My whole goal is trading expansions, not after expansions. So the main thing is just you're entering there after an expansion, right? Versus something like this, right? It's not a great reversal, but you see how this reversal happens and we don't expand, then we get an expansion here. Once again, this candle's, let's see. Wow, this is very slow, right? Yeah, that's just not great, but does that make sense? Well, so here, let me draw this out for you. With a candle 2 closure, right? I'm wanting to trade candles that look like this, right? Because if I'm thinking about price, and if I'm thinking price is going to expand in one direction, right? I want to be on side with price before it expands. So right here, if we have price going down, forming a reversal, then I can look to get on side with the next candle to go expand higher, right? That's what I want. But what I don't want, or what I won't trade candle 3 in, is if I'm expecting this expansion, candle 2 makes the shallow reversal and expands, price already expanded, right? This move already happened. Why would I try to be entering it here, right? That's when I'm waiting for another swing or something to form, so then I can get on side with that, right? So another swing set up to form. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, cool. A lot of time when I'm watching gold and it has a candle 2 closure, it just takes off rather than offer an opposing run. If that's what you find, then you can be taking opens, like entries at the open of candle 3. You just have to have a valid stop loss. Does that make sense? It's kind of like this, right? Let's say I'm so used to price opening right here and then just always expanding higher, right? On this example. Well, I want to take a look and say, hey, where would my invalidation be, right? And this is the same process we go over and over, right? Well, we know from the CISD it's right there, but do we have any new opposing runs? We have a reach back into a fair value gap here and a close over this, which gives me an invalidation here. So if I'm under the impression that this move tries to expand right away, then I can just enter at the open and I can have my stop on that low if that's how I want to trade it, because that's my invalidation. And then there's my 2R, right? So if that's what you always find, there is different ways to approach it. Would that be 0.5 of the previous? I mean, in this case, it is 0.5 of the previous, but this is what I'm looking for in invalidation. So in this case, because we have formed a new order block that gives a new invalidation, the reason to also trust this is because it is below 0.5, right? If I didn't, then I could, maybe lower it a little bit more to let a sweep occur or down to this low, right? Yep. Okay. Now let's see, I think we gotta go back to GC on here. And here we are, and then we'll go to oil. Now, with oil, I wasn't very interested in this, and the reason for it being, let me explain, is after 3 days of expansion like this, I'm looking to ideally frame something back lower, right? Now, to frame something back lower, I would need to have either a reversal off this previous day high, right? So this going up and sweeping, right? So it looks something like that, or a shallow wick, to then trade it back lower, or some sort of SMT, right? When price just consolidates like this, I'm viewing this as a consolidation, not a retracement or a reversal, because we haven't formed anything. So then how I'm viewing this is if I look at the hourly, right, and I take a look, all I really was looking for here was all these lows, because we have equal lows here. Those get ran out, consolidation, there's a candle 2 closure, we trade that higher, right? So it's just a consolidation protocol, right? And the reason it is that is because these failed to take out the highs. If this would have taken out this high, then my bias changes, right? Because now we take a look, we've formed a reversal off this previous day high, looking for it to trade lower. But we don't do that. We create a failure swing and we sweep out the low in this consolidation, right? So with oil, that there wasn't really much there on the daily chart. It's just more so intraday and then the phases of price delivery, if you wanted to frame that. And all that is due to is because of the shallow wick on this side taking out the consolidation. Could you review the M15 closures during 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. on NQ? Do you have a certain time? I mean, like a certain day you're looking at? I don't know if you mean just today, but today I'm not trying to really do anything with that. But if I wanted to, really the only way to frame it is we're looking for candle 2 closures. So there's one there. So if we go take a look, see if replay will let us take a look. Let's see what it looks like. We'll go down to the 1 minute. And let's see. Right, so then here is a possible short setup. We have swept out this high. So if I'm trying to short, I could look to short in here. This would be my short, most likely, or an attempt at one. And I could look for 2R, which is near the lows here, and then rise. And looks like that first attempt would get stopped out. And then that's if you're waiting, if you're trying to catch the high. If you're waiting for the intra-candle change in the state delivery, you wouldn't get stopped out on that. This would be second attempt if I'm doing it that way. And I could look for 2R or something like that. Right? That's if you're trying to do that and catch the highs. And you see how it's just more risky and you take more stop losses before something goes. Versus if you're trying to trade the intra-candle change in the state of delivery, what are you doing? You're waiting for the closure through this, right? And so the whole reason I did this exercise is to show you that if you try to catch all these highs, that can look good and work, but a lot of times it's not confirmed until we close through, right? And so yes, you may not catch as many high R trades, right? But this trade is going to be more confirmed. Does that make sense? Now something like this within the range, can do that, look for 2R, or if that doesn't make sense in terms of the range, you can also wait for a retest somewhere around there. And there we go, right? Does that make sense? I wanted to do that to show how candle closures do work, but if you try to just take them all, see that would have been essentially 1, 2 stop losses before a winning trade, right? So sizing would have to be different than trading something like this. Today on NQ. And then, so then the next one would be, you're just waiting for another candle 2 closure, which looks like one here. Let's see. There we go, that's looking like it. Let's see. So there's the candle 2 closure. In this case, not the biggest fan of this, because we've already swept out this, right? So generally when I see something like this, we sweep out a high, I'm thinking we need to take a low before we can go higher. Then I'm generally looking for this to sweep out. So most of the time, looking for a sweep of that low to then go trade this higher. So let's see what happens. Right, and then that one I would just miss because it doesn't form any low I would trust. I don't trust that low really after taking out that high like that. Right? So that's one I'd miss. Does that. I don't know if there's SMT there, but yeah, and then it's just slowly grinding up. And you'd have to wait for a new candle closure and CISD. No candle closure, just have to wait. No candle closure, bullish or bearish. I wouldn't try to be longing that above highs. And there's just really nothing here. Let's see. This is, yeah, this is just consolidation. Maybe there's something there on ES at the same time. If ES being SMT off that high. But there's just really not a lot there, and that's very visible if you're taking a look at the higher time frames and you say, hey, we just had this range, and what are we doing? We're just kind of consolidating. I trade with my bias, yeah. So like if I'm bullish, I'm gonna be trying to align my time frames with that. I'm not trying to just pattern trade something. Let's say for example you are bearish, we would want, for example, London to go higher first in the case you take a long. No, like if I'm bearish, I'm not trying to long something. Like that doesn't really make sense. That's like this, ready? This is kind of the example. Let's say I'm bearish. I'm looking for price to trade down to these lows, right? Okay, I'm bearish. And I was trying to say something like, I'm just gonna long this. Like, why would I long a swing in there? Because it's off of a point of interest? No, I'm gonna go with my bias. I'll just wait for that to form. Like I don't trade against my higher time frame bias. Took this trade today. So yeah, the first thing I see on that, let's take a look. Not gonna. Let's go in here. First thing I see is we've already taken that left side, right? Over here. See how we already took out this high? If I'm trying to take a long in here, I want to be entering 1, around the opening price of this higher time frame candle, 2, early into the candle, and then 3, I don't want these targets to already be taken, right? So if I'm trying to enter this, I'm trying to enter 1, around the opening price, early into the candle, which is, you know, if we split it kind of in half here, I'm trying to enter here. So I want my kind of my zone of entry is like in here somewhere, right? So when we already take the high and come back in, right? And then here, how far into this candle are we? Let me see if you include the time. Next time, please try to include the time in the photos. It helps me. But it looks like we're almost through this candle, right? So even if I was trying to enter long here, I'm not going to enter now. I'm going to wait for the new higher time frame candle to then what? If this closes like this, then I'd want to see an open, low, high close, and I can look for a candle 4 continuation. I'm not trying to enter at the high of candle 3. Does that make sense? So with this, I would say try to focus on entering around the opening price and early into the candle, right? Candle only has a certain amount of time that it can expand. So I'm focused on entering early into the candle so I can get on the expansion. And I'm not trying to enter at the high because I'm trying to catch an expansion. Why am I entering at the high of the expansion? It doesn't make sense. What do you think happened today? Do you agree with the bias is bearish to take the equal lows on ES and AQ? I mean, so I never know why stuff happens, but if we go here, daily, right? And clean up my chart real quick. Like I said earlier, I don't trust this move away here. I just can't bring myself to try to long this or be long here when we're leaving these lows like this on ES and NQ, right? Like neither of them took that out. Let's say on NQ, we would have done something like this. Fix that up. Then that's something I would consider longing, right? Because we've taken this out, we've formed an SMT, right? But here, I just can't bring myself to long something when we just have equal lows sitting here and here. So yes, we have CPI absolutely rip higher. I'm not trying to short that because I'm not trying to fade the daily candle, but I'm also not trying to long it because it doesn't mean my bias. All I'm looking for now is, okay, if we close near the highs, are we going to form a reversal off this previous day high to trade it lower, right? Or if we don't, come close back in, is there a way I can frame short in the following days, right? Because I'm not just going to switch my bias because of this, right? How would you recommend studying to increase my ability to recognize bad PA while it's happening? Just practice going through the chart one candle by one candle. I think too many people sit here. So for example, we'll go back to like this. Just use this example. I think too many people sit on the charts and watch the whole time, right? They're watching every single one of these candles form and they're just getting overwhelmed. When in reality, all of my decisions are made based off of a closure of a candle. So let's say, I don't know what time frame this is. Let's say this is a 1 minute candle. I'm not caring about 59 seconds of this. I only care about the 1 second that it closes. So I'm not going to make any decisions unless I get a closure. So why would I watch it every minute, right? Like all 15 minutes. I'm going to watch it 15 seconds out of the 15 minutes, right? And does that make sense? Because right here, I can take a look at the closure. I can take a look at the closure. I can take a look at the closure. I'm not trying to make decisions when I see price oscillating in between, right? Because the candle hasn't formed yet. So I would say just practice that, and then kind of what I went over there, where you're focused on entering around the opening price, early into the candle, and really you're asking yourself, has the wick of this candle formed? That's like what I would do. I think you're probably getting overwhelmed because you're trying to, I don't know, maybe you're using a 5-minute chart. And let's see, let's say you're sitting here and watching every single one of these candles form in here. Like, yeah, that's probably going to get overwhelming. When instead you could just set a timer to go off at every 5 minutes and then see what happens. Like instead of watching this candle go boom, 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 finally close here, like I'll just check the chart at 9:40 and say, oh, it closed back inside, cool. Right, like I don't care about 9:41 or 9:36, 9:37, 9:38, 9:39, 9, right? I just care about 9:40. And then here, I don't care what happens until when? 9:45. What does that closure tell me? Well, this reversal has occurred. We've closed over there. Likely to see the high. I don't really care what happens until 9:45. What does this closure tell me? Well, we're closing over this high. Yeah, so stop watching every single little tick of movement in the price, like in the market. right? Like it's not going to help you. You're just going to get anxiety and get worried about it. You have no control over the market. Just set an alarm and say, hey, what does this new information tell me? Right? That's why it's like people are like with back testing on TradingView, let's say, they're like, oh, it's not, at least for me and how my strategy works, oh, it's not helpful. Well, it is because I don't care about what happens in here. It actually helps. Have you ever noticed it's like you make better decisions on back testing like this when you just see candle closures? It's because you're not getting overwhelmed or having emotions with this candle forming however it did in here. Like if we go to the 5 minute or the 1 minute, right? Granted, this one was straight up, but you have some candles that will go down, up, right? And that gets your emotions all going when in reality, it's like you don't watch for 5 minutes, you come back and you're saying, oh, nice closure. Yesterday, I took a lock position around 12. I don't know what, oh, a long position around 12. I forgot it was lunchtime. It looked valid, got stopped, only for it to go in my direction during New York PM, 5 minute chart. And I'm correct in saying that A, lunch was a bad idea. There's no displacement. I'd have to see your trade. I have no idea what you traded or how you traded it or where you put your stop. So I can't really say like the time was bad or there was no displacement. NQ yesterday. NQ yesterday 5 minute. I mean, what were you trying to trade in here? I'm guessing you were trying to long this. I mean, I don't. What model do you use? Marco. Oh, you're using a 5 minute inversion. So I'm assuming you tried to long that. Which sure. I mean, the thing is, it's just that I just don't view price in that way. For me, I'm using the closures. I haven't had a bullish closure yet, so why am I trying to long this? It's not until here I get a bullish closure. Then I have my confirmation. Here's the long setup, and I know someone actually took this one, and I think they took it right here because of the closure. They're stopped there. 2R, right around there. Right. So it's hard for me to help with that because that's not how I view price. Like I don't look at a pattern in the market. I'm looking at a higher time frame closure than the change in the state of delivery, right? Like that's why I have it set up that way because it filters me out of stuff like that. If I was just not using higher time frame candles and I was just looking at the change in the state of delivery, that's a change in the state of delivery right there. Why am I not long? Well, now you see why I have two filters in place. Yeah. So that's why, like, if you guys are watching this and you have the flow chart with you, this is a perfect example of why you don't need to sit on the lower time frames and look at stuff. I didn't swear, but look at stuff and make decisions when you haven't had the higher time frame candle, right? So many people will try to say, oh, we got to change in the state of delivery here. I'm going to long it. And they skip the first step of, do we even have a point of interest in a candle 2 closure or a candle 3 closure? If we don't have any of that, I'm not looking for a change in the state of delivery. Okay, let me see. Thoughts on 5 minute NQ short that formed after 10:45 today? We can go take a look. After the release and then this, I just didn't want to watch anything. I mean, yeah, you can consider that a short. It's just here's my problem with this. With the way I view price, I'm viewing this as what do we see on these highs? Almost all these lower highs just building up. I don't trust any of these highs in here to have hold to form this wick, right? Did they? Yeah. Do I trust that real time? No, I'm never going to, right? So unless this candle comes up and does something like this, I'm not trusting that, right? That, sure, I can trust. It swipes out all of those, comes back in. Then this closure right here, sure, I can take a long there to go look for that, right? Granted, the risk reward may not be there. Maybe it is. Let's see. I think I'd have to lower my stop loss a little to somewhere right around there, right? So sure, I could do that. But without that occurring, there's no way I'm taking that, honestly. Maybe with an SMT, see if there is one. There's no SMT. So this isn't something I'm going to trade. Nice, hopefully that helped you. That was your question. I think you made a good decision in not trusting it. So if there's a lot of wicks you look for, yeah, so the main thing is I'm always looking for, if you look for an entry sequence, we're looking for an entry sequence in here, right? Which is a swing point and then an intra-candle change on state delivery, right? Or a sweep of a high, or in this case, reach into a fair value gap. Do we have any fair value gaps to reach into here? No. All we have is swing highs, right? And these highs, now they're not swing highs on this time frame, but all these highs right here, they're going to be lower time frame swing highs that just didn't take out anything. So that's just building up liquidity, right? So like right now, where do I see this going? Well, we have a lot of liquidity right here. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's a good decision. So I would say well done. From a bias standpoint, was it valid to consider short with a narrative that both NQ and ES already swept previous day high, gave hourly confirmation lower yesterday? If you mean being short biased into today, is that what you mean? Like, are you saying, hey, I wanted to be short biased into today? Or what do you mean consider short? Because that's kind of broad. Hiking. The reason I'm not trying to consider short on a day like this is it's not a bearish expansion candle, right? If I'm trying to be short, I would need a shallow run over previous day high, because that's going to make a smaller wick, which then allows it to expand towards the lows. When I have a candle like this, I'm not trying to fade a bullish expansion candle, right? I'm going to let this close and then I'll see if I form a reversal, like I said at the beginning of this. How's it going, Garrett? You got a piece of that? Sweet. Let's see. Took this short today. Set the stop above 50% of hourly wick. 10 a.m. 4 hour candle, no lower wick. Right time for me. Yeah, that's a sweet trade. That works for sure. That's what we were just talking about. It's a little bit more discretionary in trusting that it would hold, but it's still valid. Could you look at M15, M1, C4, long entry now on New York lunch? Sure, we can take a look. Go back here. Hopefully that answered your guys' questions. So current price action here. Don't have any swing points, so it's not technically an hourly model, right? But I would be looking for price to trade to these highs right here, right? Now with that, if we can find a 15-minute swing point, which we have there, it means we have a 1-minute model here. I'd be looking to trade this higher, right? Now with this, my first target would be in here, right? Second in here. So if I'm trying to trade this away, right? Right here, I can't trade this because this hasn't been confirmed, right? Once we close through this level, then I can anticipate what? This low to hold. And realistically, if price is going to respect 50% of this, now that it's valid, I don't expect price to go below these lows either. So if I wanted to take an entry there, kind of on the reversal, that's what it would have to look like. And then I'd need to get to which it would have hit. Cool. Right, but I prefer to wait for a swing. Now, like I said, I want to be entering early into the candle and around the opening price. So when stuff kind of, even if we have a setup right here where we reach into a fair value gap, form a swing, we're way too far away from the opening price, and we're halfway through the candle. So I'm not looking for, unless I'm getting an entry in here, I'm not looking at this. We open this next candle, we trade higher first. That's not super ideal, right? And then lower, right? So as we do this, I'm more so expecting this to be a reversal candle if price is going to trade higher. So with that, I'd rather trade in the following or fifth candle, which we don't really talk about, and I don't really want to confuse people. But if you really wanted to get in this, all it is here's the reversal candle. That's when it confirms. Here is our invalidation going into candle 4 to then trade to these highs. Right? Yeah, that's your entry. Now with this type of entry, it's my stop loss, I'd put it there. So it's, if I'm long in here, I'm just putting my stop loss here. And then looking for, there'd be my 2R, or holding to the highs here. That would be how I would trade that. Because let's think about it. If you go to the 0.5 of the CISD section, I want to see the upper half of this respect, which it does. If I want to see the upper half of that respect, I have a swing point right here below the body. If price goes down and sweeps this out, I'm not really interested in being in it anyways, right? Does that make sense? You're in that one. Nice. Well done. Let's see what questions. Yesterday my bias was bearish. Asia 4 hour candle swept previous day 4 hour, whereas NQ didn't. I wait for that candle close, which confirms it's a liquidity sweep. My CSD with 15 those took 100 punch. Want to know if this is right. You'd have to show me your lower time frame setup. It's not the fractal model with, unless you're using the 15-minute closure in there. I see it. Yeah, so it's just slightly different. Like, that's not the fractal model. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just, that's not my model. But it looks like you had a model and you played that through. So. And then just a quick example. You remember how I was saying all those highs on the 5-minute were just failure swings on the lower time frame? So those you can kind of see it, right? Boom, 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 boom. Just all that built up. And yeah. Pretty fun. Let's see. 5 more minutes for this to ideally hit that. And then we'll actually talk through it depending on how it closes. But yeah, any other questions on people's minds right now? Was yesterday a C2 closure on the daily? If we go take a look at the daily. Yeah, it's technically a bearish C2 on NQ. It is a bullish candle closure in this bullish swing point on ES. So it's hard because sometimes like you have to fade your own, fade the mechanics of a model. See what the hour looked like real quick. Yeah. So here's the thing though, with this candle 2 closure, we're wanting to see this area push price lower, right? When we just completely violate that, then it's likely to fail. If this swing point's going to fail, what becomes the drawn liquidity? Failure swings at the highs, or this swing. Right? I've talked about that a few times. If this swing is going to fail, it becomes the drawn liquidity. What I look like for a continuation higher on the indices tomorrow? It's just very hard for me to try to, like, maybe I'm just very wrong on this, and that's fine. I just am not really trying to look long without these lows getting taken out on ES or NQ. Like, that's just very hard for me, because that's where I was looking for price to go hit. So if we're just leaving all these equal lows, in the dream scenario, it would have just swept up these equal lows, and then I'd just be long until these highs. But that's not what we got. Yeah. So cool. There's a little, it would be 2R, right? Right there. For setups during New York session, opens at 9:30. Do you wait for the 9 a.m. hourly candle to close? Then would you enter at 10 a.m. candles low? Or would you enter, wait, low? I'm trying to visualize this. Or enter whenever you see the CSD after. So it depends on the hourly, like, if you're trading the hourly to 5-minute, you're going to focus on the 8 a.m. closure, because that will tell you what 9 will do, and then the 10 a.m. closure, right? If 9:30 manipulates, you're never going to get a fractal model set up until 10, right? If 8:30 manipulates, then the 9 a.m. will give you a fractal model set up for 9:30. I don't know what you really mean with enter whenever you see a CISD at 9:30, 9:45. Like if you're using the hourly and 5-minute, it's not just like, I don't know. There's scenarios, right? Like if 8:30, right? Think about this as the hourly candles. If 8:30 manipulates, right? Closes back in, that allows this 9 a.m. candle to expand. I can trade it, right? 9:30 goes, right? And then 10 a.m. is either going to be a continuation or a reversal, right? But let's say we consolidate, 9:30 then manipulates. I'm not catching this move, even if it expands, because that's candle 2, right? So then I could look to trade candle 3, but once again, it's already kind of expanded, right? But that's then the 4-hour wick and hourly wick. So I can look to try to frame that as the hourly and 4-hour wick and hold for the 4-hour move. But that's what I mean, is it's not just a one size fits all. I can't just say, hey, this is what's going to happen. We had SMT with YM. I don't use YM for SMT personally. Wait, let's see. Let's talk through this real quick. So we just got a new candle, right? Kind of consolidating here. So here's what you have to watch, right? This is our consolidation range. I'm going to take this little thing off the chart. Doesn't matter. Ideally, if we're going to trade this back higher to the highs, what do we manipulate first? The lows, right? If we manipulate these lows, then I want to see what? A close over here to form a low, close over, which forms the wick of this higher time frame candle, to then trade through the previous candle's high into these highs. Let's see if there's any questions. How do we gauge if a manipulation took place? Hard to label one. So manipulation within my model is a candle 2 closure. Right. So here, let's see if we can get a little live example here. So we got the sweep of that, right? So if we're going to have our entry sequence, we'd want to see what? A closure over the down close candles that swept out the point of interest, forming a swing point. So now we have a candle 2 closure, and you can do it fractally. We'd want to see 0.5 of this wick hold up price if we're going to go get that closure, right? So I'll kind of draw that out. We'll zoom in. For the lessons, let's see if there's any other questions. Sorry, last question. That 15-minute fractal example you've been showing, what was the point of interest for C2? Was it just an OB? You'd have to show me which example you mean. Let's see. This one? That's mostly just a phase of price, and then we swept out a bunch of highs to the left. It's not very clean. But that's just mostly being massive expansion, new phase of price delivery by going either retracement or reversal. When we close like this, I'm thinking either retracement or reversal. These candles don't tell me a reversal. That one tells me, okay, that's expansion into retracement into expansion. Right? Lunch one? What do you, this lunch one? Oh, the lunch one went into a fair value gap. Right there. So, all right, where were we? Oh, we're on the 1 minute. Crazy. Anyways, very messy. We made a new low. However, this is still the, let's talk about it. See how the wick didn't get respected? Once we disrespect the wick, we go make a new low. So now we kind of have a new low, and then this would still be the exact same level, right? Because it's still the series of down close candles that made the low. So then you want to see, can we close over this, right? And you can see, like I showed earlier in the example, the high risk entries is this would be one, this would be one as well, right? And so let's see how we say consolidation, manipulating the lows because we are still bullish to these highs. So now we want to see how we trade through this high here, right? Because we don't want to see us wick this high and then come back in aggressively, right? Because then we're likely to take the lows, right? We want to see, it's more ideal with, we have 9 seconds, is we close over this, or we get a nice strong close, and then we have a nice shallow candle here that reaches lower and then just expands, right? So ideally a shallow candle, and then it just expands. Because you don't really want to see it, because if we have expansion into an old high and expansion back down, I'm viewing that as a reversal, not expansion, retracement, expansion, right? So we see how this closes. If 8:30 manipulates, then 9:30 will expand. Well, so it's not an always thing, right? It's not always going to do that. It's just that's what I look for. If 8:30 expand, yeah, but it's my time video. I have a whole video on that one. So let's see. Where we close within this candle tells me what I want from the next. We close near the lows, then I want a shallow sweep of this candle to then, made a new one, shallow sweep of this candle to then form a low, come back into the range. That would then be a candle 2 for the following to expand, right? And if we don't get a good closure here, then it's likely expansion into expansion, which is a reversal. And this is not something I want to be messing with because it's likely to go make a new low, right? Which is looking like what it's going to do. So see how this is not ideal because you want to see it just shallow go trade through. So not a great live example, but that's normally what you want to see, right? Now, let me talk about one thing here. Why would I not want to be entering? If, like, let's say I take retest of order blocks as an entry. Why would I not want to be entering here? I want to be entering when price is going in my direction, hasn't taken out a high. So I want to be entering if price closes over that and hasn't taken out this high, because then I can expand through. And if it starts to retrace, I can get back out, right? But that did exactly what we didn't want to, where expansion into an old high, expansion back down is a reversal. Now, if you look, this is a bearish change in the stage delivery with a shallow wick here, where we could trade this lower, which is not what I want though, because that's opposing where I actually want to see price draw to. But we are going to hop off the 1 minute. Last question from me. Can you elaborate on your message regarding, well, if for the 1 hour change in the state of delivery, that isn't likely to occur today. So if I wanted to frame back in the range, okay, let me talk about that. So what you're saying is, you were asking me this morning, you said, hey, if I want to trade this lower, do I need to wait for an hourly change in the state of delivery? And I said, that's not what I'd be looking for. Why is that? Well, if I'm trying to look for an hourly change in the state of delivery, where's that going to occur? Here. So you're saying we need to go 400 points this way, 400 points back, just to look for a reversal. That's 800 points. That's kind of insane range. So no, I wouldn't be looking for that to go and then go. And if you look, that'd be the size of the wick. This is kind of my target for the day if we're going to short, right? So with that, I'm not looking for that. I'm more so looking for hourly swing points or a swing point to frame a retracement back into the range. That's what I meant by that. Yeah, it's on my YouTube, public YouTube. Why do you only use the bodies for your fib projections, not the wicks? That's what my indicator does. There will be a little update soon, but that's because it's more mechanical in this process. And to be honest, I don't really use projections much anymore. I think a lot of people like them, so I leave it in there. But realistically, like I'm just framing the higher time frame candles in liquidity, all of that. I'm not really looking for like, sure they can be a confluence, but I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm not gonna target liquidity because the projections, etc. Right? Let's see. Yeah. We'll go back to this for 1 second because I can expand on one thing. Right. Once that gets that candle closure, see that's the bearish one with a shallow wick. That's what allows a candle 2 to also have an expansion, which can trade lower 2 liquidity points, which is just here to here. It's an imbalance. Because if you look at this price action here, that's where price doesn't overlap. So basically, if this current high was swept and created a swing point, that would be valid. You'd likely target halfway into the range. This is where I would target into the range more so. You could target a little bit lower, right? But this is where I view it as not balanced because I look at this, right? Like look at this price action, right? Price trades, this is now overlapping, right? That's overlapping with that. So I consider all of that price action balanced. If I look here, price is trading, right? This is where it's not balanced because this high doesn't overlap with the low yet, right? But like I said, I'm not really looking for a large move down. Why? Because don't get so caught up in the lower time frames. Where am I actually looking for price to trade to? These highs, right? So I'm only looking for price to trade into these lows to then go back higher. That's it. Right, so there we go hit our lows. This is where we fully balance out this price leg in the way I view price, right? And then I'm not looking for another move to switch or to just retrace or go higher until when? A new higher time frame candle. So I don't care what happens here until 1300. And then even then, right, I'm not likely to have a setup unless, well, not fractal model wise, there's not going to be a setup for at least another 30 minutes, right? I know this sounds new, but some trade from 8 a.m., some trade from 9 a.m., some start at 9:30, some start at 9:45. You got to find out what works for you best. I find for most, just 8:30 on is probably the easiest. If you want to be very consistent, I don't mind taking trades earlier than that, but so you'll probably be cautious with C3 expansion as target is very close. I don't know what you mean C3 expansion. The reason I mentioned a very shallow wick, if you can go back in the recording here, and we take out this high, is because if we have a shallow wick, this candle can expand, right? Which is what it did. Shallow wick, it gives it more range, right? So now we're in here. So like really where I see price going is, let's view this phase of price, right? Expansion, retracement, expansion. I want to see this expand back up above here, close, because expansion met with expansion is a reversal. Then this can support price to go where? Back higher, right? Just like the little arrow I drew. So, and let's see one thing really quick. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. We'll see. But hopefully that makes sense why shallow wick, once we close below here, looks for there. Now, if we don't close above this, where do I see price going to? Make another low. But, I don't know. Here's another thing we can talk about. Maybe it will happen. We only have a few minutes left. Probably won't happen. Let's talk about it anyways. If price is going to consolidate in here, and then it comes right here and closes, why am I not interested in considering this a change in the stage delivery? Because that's now consolidation, and when we take out this side of the range, that's a manipulation to then trade lower, right? So let's see. Ideally, it goes and sweeps one more time. Yeah. Somewhere in here. For the fun of it. Well, let's see. And you were so right, being now overwhelmingly glued to the charts. We'll try to practice what you guys. Yeah. I mean, it's just there. All right. So that's expansion into there, that area. And like I said, there's really no interest until when? The new higher time frame candle, because this is a bearish expansion candle. You try to fight it, you normally get caught up. Here it's pretty obvious it's not, because it can't close over here, has a candle 2 closure that's very bearish, goes lower. Really all I was marking out here was that fair value gap, right? Higher time frame fair value gap. There. So now we'll probably hop off of the stream. So it's getting late for me here, but new candle, right? Why am I not really interested in this? Yeah, I could be looking for it. My model says, hey, this is a candle 2 closure to look short, right? But where is my actual draw on liquidity? I'm still looking for those highs, right? So I'm kind of looking for this to fail. Now, the most ideal way for that to fail is it goes what? Open, low, high close, so it sweeps out this low, then trades higher, right? So we'll see what happens, but it's not very interesting to me. I was just more so watching this to try to show you guys some stuff real time, because I think it's beneficial in the learning process, right? But ideally this first, second, third candle trades lower first, and then we can come back in the range, because then that forms this higher time frame wick, and then that's when it can start to frame stuff to the upside. We'll see. But any other questions before we hop off? Let's see one thing. Maybe we just go. Cool. Guess I didn't want to use the little shallow sweep on this one. I just wanted to make a failure swing and go. Anyways, same idea. Looking for those highs, right? And this is what I mean is, if you're just getting zoomed into the lower time frames and not seeing the higher time frames, a lot of people are going to say, oh, this was a super clean short setup. Why didn't it work? Well, one, candle 2 already expanded. We went over that, shallow wick. But then also, we're looking for price to trade to this high, right? Can you show how you frame the short move in Q-ish? Yeah, so people were talking about, I was sitting next to a fees yesterday and, wait real quick, if this is going to respect, right, this is, like I said, this is in the fractal model, but if price is going to respect this to trade higher, be from there. But let's go. We were on the 1 minute, and I was just teaching some stuff to him live, and let's see, that was like around 11-ish. It was this setup here. You guys know exactly what this was. Go here. And And the main thing I taught him, or talked to him about, or walked through with, is we had a fair value gap here, a sweep into this, right? So a 15-minute fair value gap looking to trade lower. And we have this change in the state of delivery here. And mainly what he was talking about was he wanted to short it here, cover his stop on the high, and then, 2R. And I was just saying, hey, like, let me show you something. I'll just show you how you can use this fractally to the lower time frames. So then, if I'm wanting to see this area hold price, right, and I see this, I said, okay, this is where we can try a higher risk entry, but it'll give more RR of an entry like this with my short on the next candle, stop like that, and then, could target here, but we were holding to the CE of the daily wick, which was like somewhere down in here. And then, there's the entry, almost got stopped out, and then it just goes right in the candle for continuation. Right? So all I was showing was how can use swing points fractally, right? So like I said, that's the more of the risky entry. What's the more confirmed entry? Like I showed in the beginning of this video, once we close through right there, it would be entering short there. I stop on this high on the body here, and then there's 2R to the low, or I can hold down, right? So that's all I did. He just traded it while I was teaching it. So, but there we are. Let's see what happens. It's looking pretty consolidation. Isn't the safety net you have to build up on Apex pretty much like a second phase of a challenge? Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is. It's a one-step challenge, but it's two-step. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully, I don't have enough time today to just sit on here and watch what happens. But like I said at the beginning of this, when we were in here, right, like I'm expecting these highs to get taken out because we go to the 5-minute, they're just too clean, right? So I'd want to see that one hit. So we'll see what happens. If you watch this video in the recording, you can come back and see. Hopefully that kind of helped framing it into this area where you'd anticipate price to bounce from and then go. You can see this isn't, a fractal model is not going to catch this because the fractal model is trading the continuation, which is a lot easier on something like this that has more structure put together. This is going to be a little bit more discretionary, right? I was just doing it more so to teach you guys some stuff real time. So hopefully it was helpful. If it wasn't, sorry, but maybe we'll wait a minute or two, see if it trades to the high. If not, I'm gonna hop off. How often do I do my live stream? It'll be once a week on Wednesdays. Let's see something real quick. I'll give it 3 more minutes and then I'll hop off. Yeah, the real-time examples are super useful. There's not always like real-time use like examples that are actually like setting up during my live stream, which it is what it is. That's why I went to the 1 minute. I don't really like the 1 minute, but it can be good for teaching real time because I get a lot more examples in. Plug my battery in. But let's see. If this, let's just walk through some scenarios. Most likely, this already made quite the range on the 15-minute. So if this is going to consolidate, then when would the next, when would it go and run and make a new range or reach higher? Right, we'd get a new 15-minute candle. So here. Right. So then I'd want to see. I don't really trust these lows in here. Could trust them. There's kind of two things that happen here. We either sweep out that and respect the wick here, which it's kind of doing. The closures will tell us, right? I don't have to know what happens either. I just wait for the candle to close. Like I said, I don't care what happens between here and whatever it's doing. I'm just gonna wait until you can see on my screen the next 13 seconds, 12, and that'll tell me what's up. But most of the time what happens when you see a formation like this, we either swoop out here, respect the wick, kind of close back in, or we disrespect this, go swoop up below. Right, so with this, I prefer to see the low ran. Right. Maybe it doesn't. That's fine. It's not something I'm going to try to put on any risk, unless we have SMT. Let's see. Yeah, of course we have SMT. I don't like the look of the lows, but we do have SMT here now. Right. So SMT, that then makes it valid to see if we close over here, and then that should then trade higher. Man, afternoon session, which I never watch, and the 1 minute. Not a fan. Ideal scenario, sweep out the low though, form a wick in here, candle 2 closure, right, where we do something where you have a nice little wick, down, form a reversal, then it trades higher, then closes over this, then finishes it out. Yeah, last hour's night. See, the thing is, I just don't watch PM session. Like I'm not that good in PM session. Like this, it's somewhat confusing to me. So, but this is what I'd like. Right? If we close there, and then you get displacement up on the next candle. The only thing is, it's just not like I never try to trade the candle like this, because we're range trading currently actually. But it helps cement a lot of the workings of model, which is cool. Yeah. I only watched a few recent streams, but every live stream. Yeah, so every live stream I'm talking about the fractal model. On the 1 minute you framed this long targeting the swing high, what is the point of interest in this long? You could just use the 15-minute fair value gap if you wanted. For me, it's just, I don't know, gut feeling. Well, yeah, there, fair value gap. I don't want to see, if I'm bullish, I don't want to see price trade to this fair value gap, then it's bearish. Okay, this is what I mean is, I'm looking for price to trade to these highs, which is what we talked about this full stream essentially. I don't want to see price go trade all the way down to these lows and then all the way back up to these highs. Right? I just want to see it trade lower, then back higher. Right, which is kind of being a pain right now. Let's see. This is a lot more than 3 minutes, man. See if we can use this as an inversion level. Close over, and then go higher. If not, we're gonna make a new low. Makes a new low. Now we don't care about this up here because, oh, did it make a new low or is that equal low? Yo, that's annoying. Now it's equal lows. I meant the initial C2 on the long. That's what I said is this stuff right here that we're talking about, this isn't the fractal model. Like this is just me explaining stuff. Like this, there is no fractal model here until it's most likely not going to form. It would have to close over this to form a fractal model, which given we only have 3 minutes left in this candle, I don't really see price creating all that range. Could happen, but like I see this next candle trading lower to here, and then if we're going to go trade higher, we form a wick, right? And then we get maybe 1, 2. If I draw my dream scenario, it would be wicking the low, then closing over this. Then right at the start of the next candle, we already have this low that I expect to hold, and then that can send higher. But of course it's gonna do something like that, where it just leaves the lows. I love how I go, oh, it's probably unlikely in the next 2 minutes to just get all this range. And then the market makers are watching me, you know? It is pretty hilarious. I'm not a fan of equal lows. It would have just been so much easier just to sweep it. Like, that didn't sweep, did it? No, it didn't. Anyways, let's see. I actually will wait 1 or 2 more minutes just to see if this prints. Like, I'm not even trading it, it's just interesting. Ah, that makes more sense. Candle 2 closure right at the mean threshold of this. Now if we respect 0.5 of that, we make a new low. And let's see. Let's see if we can show something. I don't like doing this on the 1 minute because it's just so finicky. But you see how we're lacking a wick right here on the lower? We just only moved higher. So that's why I want to see it go higher first, hit, and then I want to see this flip the open, right? So it's going to go make its lower wick. And we'll see. It's harder to do on the 1 minute because like the 1 minute will just do that. See, like right here, it'll just close like that, not have a wick. So I prefer the slightly higher time frames. It's a little bit cleaner. So, oh, let's see. Nice. This looks like crap on this time frame at least. Anyways, I think I'm gonna hop off there. I'm expecting price to go trade to this high, as we've talked about. Just how and when it gets there, I don't know. It's not very clean. I was wondering if it would close over there, because then that would print a model which would say, hey, we're gonna look from here to about in here to hold price up. And then that's where I want to see the wick of this candle form. When we have failure swings off the highs, you'd want to see it just rip it through to go take out that. But we didn't get that closure, so that didn't print. Still want to see the highs. Yeah, I really baited people to leave. I don't know. See, the thing is, like, in my head, I like to anticipate stuff. Like, I can think in my head what I want to occur. Like, right here, what do I want to occur? Like, I always just think, oh, what's my dream scenario for price to do right now? Like, right here, it'd be for it to go down here, sweep that, then go higher. Right? But it needs to be, like, very early in the candle, which, at that rate, it probably just leaves it and just goes. But that's like what I was doing down here is like I was explaining, I wanted to see it wick it, and then I would have wanted to see the expansion. Like I talked about this, just was so close to doing it. Slightly off. All right, we'll watch it expand through the high. So one thing I can talk about here, when you use the higher time frame candles, those give you your targets, right? So if you drag those over, that's your targets because you use the higher time frame candles. It actually may do it. Look at that. I don't know. It's very messy. See if I can clean up. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the slow grinds up. That's what always messes with me. Because we just have failure swings. But this candle respected that anyways. So now let's see real quick. When we trade through these highs, we don't want to see what we saw over here, where we had a close, reversal, candle back in, right? We're going to go trade up here. We just want to see it expand through, right? And sometimes it's more easy to see on ES. So like, let's see if we can see it. A lot of times before we get a spike like that, ES will just stall out at the same level multiple times. Very interesting. Let's see. Not really like that, but if you watch it, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but like it'll try to push and it just keeps getting stopped. Maybe it's doing here. And then eventually it just spikes. There you go. See? See how it like stalled there for a second and then it spikes over the high? It's very interesting. So there's all those like short-term targets, right? Because this is this is the swing low, right? So that's the short-term targets. It's like if I was trying to long in here, I'm not trying to long over these highs, right? Because that doesn't make sense to long over highs if I'm targeting this anyways. Because this now has the chance to go where? Right back through the range into these lows, right? Depending on closures, what the information tells us, right? So once again, not looking too hot for how it's trading through this. You gotta wait for the candle close though. Like, you don't make decisions without a candle close. Paint dry? Yeah, basically. The imposter is back. Oh, yeah, there we go. We just missed it. I was looking at Discord. Right? Wait for the candle close. We're waiting until the high gets hit, man. I'm on this stream too long to not. Let's go. Come on now. Wait, I want to see something really quick. See, I don't know what sports car that was, but anyways, you see how it stalled? Oh, I don't think you guys can hear that. That's great. See how it's stalling here and then it spikes. But anyways, let's go back to the 1 minute. This is actually hilarious. ES 1 minute. ES candles in general are disgusting. All right. We have these lower time frame failure swings here, and we want to just see it push it through. It's actually hilarious. Look at this. Failure swing, failure swing, failure, 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 failure. Like when this comes back through, it's gonna come back through pretty quickly. I should actually probably hop off the stream, but I don't know how long this is gonna take because we've been waiting a minute now. Anyways, yeah, you could hear the car. Yeah, that car was zooming, man. I don't know what it was doing. Done for the day, not good DA. Hey, still nice trades. So one thing I'll talk about here, Cole, this is for you, is you can use the timings of the higher time frame candles to help you take TPs. Let's talk about this. So like if you're in this expansion, right? Like you did a great job getting in this expansion move, right? If you're in this expansion and then you see candle 4 printed and then we sweep out the high of this, that's where you're going to want to TP, right? If we're coming back into here, right? Like on this candle, that's a great TP because we're sweeping out the previous, coming back in, forming a wick, right? Versus holding it all the way back into here and essentially almost getting break even. I like the TP on this one. So kind of walk through it. I see you took it on the close there. So could hear the car. Yeah. Okay. Yes. 1 minute, 8 months. This is actually annoying. Do I just leave my stream open until it hits or it goes back to the opening price? Because there's two things here either. Because of how this candle forms, right? It's either going to trade higher into this high and then it'll close back up, or it's going to fail and it's going to trade back to its opening price, right? Those are the two scenarios. And could I tell you which happens? No, I couldn't because I don't know. Because we have swept out these highs, right? But not these ones. I'd prefer the highs to get taken, like I said. Let's see if we can finally do it. If we hit it, we're ending the stream. And then I'm going to dinner. Come on. Oh yeah, we're going. We got that volume imbalance, the little gap up. Come on. No way. No way it leaves it. I'm just kidding. We got 40 seconds to see what happens, so. Yeah, you should be able to hear me. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. That's hilarious. Wait, guys, here, I'll show you a trick. Ready? I think if we make this bold enough, no, it doesn't hit. Sad. All right, here's the thing. We're ending the stream if this low gets taken or this line gets taken. And then we're getting off. And why would I do it like that? Because if I was in a long position here, that's where I would have my stop loss now. Because think about it. We're over highs now. Why would I be greedy for this amount of points, right? And if we're going to fail, right, we've already had a closure over down close candles into a fair value gap, and we closed over it, right? See that? So I wouldn't want to see this low get taken if we're going to continue that high. And if it does, sure, I'd get out of it if I was long, right? That's fine. So that's why we're going to either end the stream there or there. Commence the chop so we can go. I gotta go get dinner. Actually, let me grab my phone. Best stream I've attended. All right. I'm gonna be quiet for a second because there's really not that much to talk about. We're just sitting here waiting. Can someone play this song? Wait, what is it? Let me find the song. Don't you know, come pick up. Don't you know? No way. No way. No way. No way it leaves it like that. That'd be crazy. Anyways, I'd move my stop to here. I thought it was gonna be sick, you know, like play the music. Oh, there we go. All right, all right. That's enough. That's enough of the craziness. Anyways, we'll end it with some funness. Ready? If I either take my TP there or I just trail it to each new 1 minute low, right? I'll show you how this works. Yeah, you just wait a minute, and then because if this is gonna continue to expand, you can just catch a little bit more out of the move, right? Or you hold till you either do that or you go, okay, the 30. Yeah, or you just close it right at this new open. You close it right when it closes. So wherever price is at the next 10 seconds, you just close. Ready? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So then I would just close my position there, right? Because that is the end of that expansion, and it took out the targets I wanted, right? Maybe it'll go all the way through all the highs, but I don't have more music to play for that to occur, right? Now on the other side, if you're trailing the 1 minute lows, you just trail when a new one prints and closes, you trail, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Anyways, enjoy hour-and-a-half stream. Now you guys see why you don't fade the little bias, right? Whoa, right? That's why we're anticipating this to form to then trade higher. Sick. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm gonna go look at the sunset. I'll send you guys a photo in Fractal chat. Maybe. See you guys. Have a good one.